Okay. Hello. We will go ahead and call the meeting to order for Monday, March 10th for the Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission meeting. First item is call to order. Roll call, Carrie Stuckey, that's me. Shane Carden is absent today. Kate Rose will be absent today. Eric Dybzinski.
I'm here.
Tom Jones. Tom is virtual. Stefania? Stefania, can you hear us?
I can hear you okay, yes.
Okay, thank you. And then Vicky will be out today as well. Have we heard from Councilmember Marshall? He will not be here today either. Okay. All right, so we will move on to the approval of the agenda. Were there any questions or changes to be made to the agenda today? If not, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as written. Hey, Tom, second that.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Did you vote? Tom and Stefania, can I see your vote to approve the agenda?
Yes, aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, next item is approval of minutes for our meeting on February 10th. Did we have any questions or changes to be made to those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. That is approved. All right, next item is public comment. We did have two public comments emailed to us. One was regarding the parking at Flintstone Park. They're requesting to keep it, the parking open and available close to the water. And the other one was regarding the technical dog park. And those are both in the packet. Do we have anyone here that would like to make a public comment? Okay, go ahead, Laura.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Laura Reniger, 730 Southeast Mailer Street, Oak Harbor. I'm here on behalf of the Oak Harbor Gary Oaks Society. And you will see on the table, or those of you online will see online, the event flyer for April 12th at 1 p.m. in Smith Park, in which we will be unveiling the historic state historical marker for Smith Park. And we're going to celebrate. And we're going to also have food and beverages. And we're going to raffle off some really cool things like this, which is a piece of live oak edge from sustainably harvested Gary Oak wood. And it's actually meant to be like a flight board for alcohol, but could be used with little bowls in it for like a charcuterie board or something like that. Photograph of oak trees. Anyway, various things will be raffled off, so please come. We would love to see you all there. We are having Avis Rector be our unofficial unveiler. Avis is a 92-year-old Whidbey Islander born at West Beach, elementary school teacher, historian, and author. And we are having the esteemed Gideon Kaufman, city archaeologist with local ties to tribes, also be one of our speakers. As Oak Harbor Gary Oaks Society celebrates our 10th birthday this year, we thought it might be a good idea to give the background scenario to our work and the importance of the Gary Oak Tree Protection Code in Oak Harbor, which we feel should stand intact. The number of oak trees planted by us or supplied by us within city limits in parks, schools, Navy properties, Swinomish burial grounds, and other Oak Harbor locations, excluding private land, in the last decade is 620. In 2015, when our group formed, we recognized the urgent need for a new generation of Gary Oaks. In our first informal survey, we found only 3% of the 700 or so oaks present in Oak Harbor were juvenile trees. It is alarming to think once the mature oaks age out and die, there are not enough young oaks to provide a sufficient oak canopy replacement for future generations. We also noted gaps in the habitat corridor, which we closed by planting to connect the Navy's oaks with Southeast 8th Avenue, Southeast 8th to Smith Park, and Smith Park to the waterfront parks. Additionally, we created an oak mapping tool, soundoaks.org, which has proved useful to the public. The overall health assessment of this keystone oak species planted by Ogos is generally good. Planting locations and soil conditions are important to success, as well as using locally sourced acorns. Special thanks to Bob Bailey, city arborist, for recognizing the need to protect vulnerable seedlings from the deer rut last fall. We recently gave information to you and the City Council regarding the Oak Bay's urban forest strategy. Oak Bay, BC shares many of the same similarities to Oak Harbor in terms of topography, climate, and the presence of Gary Oaks. We felt it could be helpful to examine their document as we look forward to Oak Harbor's plans for urban trees. I have one paragraph left.
Okay, go ahead and finish.
We've seen roughly 100 acres of tree canopy removed in Oak Harbor recently. Typically, developers here clear the entire parcel and leave few, if any, trees standing. We believe the real need in our community is for an additional tree canopy protection code related to clearing, grading, and new development. By contrast, the town of Coupeville requires at least 30% of the tree canopy to be retained during new development. This is what we believe we should all be focusing on as a priority to keep Oak Harbor in better compliance with the Tree City USA requirements, rather than possibly seeking to modify the existing Gary Oak Tree Protection Ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Do we have anyone else present that would like to make a public comment? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to our discussion items. Discussion item A is student representative. We have Callie here, and she is our applicant for our student representative. Callie is a sophomore at Oak Harbor High School, and she applied to be our student rep. So at this time, if any of the commissioners have any questions for Callie, feel free to ask them. Stefania or Tom, did you have any questions for Callie?
I have no questions.
Do you have any questions?
No questions.
What?
I'll take it for the team. I'd just love to hear from you why you were interested in joining on this work. I just really like to hear that, and typically we see it from upperclassmen, so it's really interesting to have a sophomore express interest, and that's impressive to me. I'd just love to hear from you why you wanted to join in on this.
And you can, if you can go up to the podium there. Thank you.
Hello. Yeah, so at my school, I'm very involved. For our class cabinet, I'm the treasurer, and I just made a club, and we go to retirement centers and stuff. So I just wanted to have more of an outreach on the actual city, and just be able to outreach more into the community.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So if there's no further questions, we'll go ahead and vote to add Callie. What's that?
Brian, did you want to say something?
No, go ahead.
Okay. At this time, we'll go ahead and take a vote for Callie. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Callie as next student representative.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Aye.
All right. That is unanimous. Welcome, Callie. You can come up and join us on the dais.
Welcome, Callie. We'll see what you got.
All right. Next item.
Hey, Carrie.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
If I may, just two things real quick. First, so Callie and I have been talking with the principal of the high school, and I believe we've made arrangements for a release time for her to attend as scheduled. Is that still the case, or do you need a modification request for the schedule of the meeting?
No, I have a pass, and I can just leave and go whenever on the
Okay.
meeting days.
So you're all right with the current meeting time?
Yes.
Okay, great. The second, real quick, we have Caleb here with a project proposal. I think we meant to have him present during public comment since we didn't have him on the regular agenda. If we can take just a minute for him to come and give that proposal before we move forward with the other agenda items.
Sure, yeah. Come on up.
Okay, so my name is Caleb Fritz. I'm with Troop 4059 here in Oak Harbor, and I'm a Life Scout right now, and I'm trying to earn my Eagle. One of the requirements for that is to build a service project here in Oak Harbor to kind of represent that I know what I'm doing with Boy Scouts and to know how to manage large groups of people, and it has to be something that can help out the community. So I plan to build a pergola. So these are some examples of what I was thinking. I plan to build this down at City Beach by that small swimming cove area. It'll be about a 14 by 14 foot like pad, and then maybe like a 15 by 15 at the largest with the like pergola roof. So there's a bunch of safety stuff with safe scouting, and some ways I plan to work around that are including many other people besides just scouts. So we have a limitation of 4 feet. So by bringing in other people, we'll be able to get above the 4 feet to build the pergola. We'll also be able to use power tools, and heavy lifting will be done by either machines, which I'm still working out on how to get and who from, and adult and volunteer led. And then I will provide goggles and gloves and things like that to help ensure safety. So I plan to do this kind of towards the end of this coming summer, and I want to do it over about 2 weekends. So this is the list of what I was kind of thinking. So weekend 1 is just going to be prepping the site, digging out the concrete like pad area, and then the second on Sunday of that weekend, I'll be pouring the concrete and then setting the pergola, like not the actual posts, but the mount for them. To ensure like strongest stability. And then weekend 2 is actually going to be building it. So all of the cutting and stuff will be pre-cut, and then the beams and rafters will all be brought to the site and assembled there. And then the 4th day we'll be standing and cleaning up the area, and then trying to reduce like the environmental impact that was caused around the site. So the volunteer participation, so I was hoping to get 75, and the way I plan to do this is through school, my Boy Scout troop, and sports programs. I already have a bunch of people who say that they would be willing to help. I only need about 10 to 16, but it'll make it a whole lot easier, especially with the digging if we have a lot more. And 75 is the total I need for including each and every day. So every day I only need about like 15 or so. And then, yeah, they'll be able to take breaks, and food will be provided. So this is the budgeting breakdown. So the materials itself will be $1,500 estimated. Concrete pad will be $600 to $2,000, which I have a couple companies and some friends who say that they might be able to help reduce that down by donating concrete and either or like bringing in a truck, which would cut the cost almost in half. The safety tools and gear will be about $300 at the max. Food and drinks to ensure for all 4 days will be $750. And then any extra expenses, I'm giving about $200 for that. So the total estimate will be a maximum of $4,000. And if this gets approved through my troop, and then when I come back here again for the final presentation, I will have like 3 or 4 months to raise money for that and get donations. So I figure that's plenty of time. And then this is just going back to how I like plan to raise that money. So I plan to make a like kind of GoFundMe kind of thing, and then go around town and asking people if they'd be willing to help. And then just the people who are volunteering too, they'll be able to bring their own supplies, which will cut down on the safety costs, like the glasses and the gloves. Same with shovels and things like that. So here's the required like permits and things that I need. So I need approval from you guys, and this isn't a right now thing. This is just a proposal to see what you guys think and what I need to add. And then this is the approval time. It'll probably take around 2 to 6 weeks. And then I need a probably permit for structure and a concrete pad, and then get it inspected by like a architecture. I forget what they're called, but like the architect. And then here's like next steps and things. So I just need to get the permits, start the fundraising, and then figure out when volunteers are available. And that's what I got. So if you guys have any questions or comments to add, take away, this would be a great time.
Thank you for that presentation. I think that's an exciting project. I just was wondering with Brian and Brandon, exact location, is that something that we would need to have a discussion about in terms of where the pergola would be located?
Yeah, we'll want to assess probably a number of sites. This location, the old pad that's there next to the lagoon actually makes for a pretty ideal footprint. It will require a near shore permit. It's not too bad of a process, and we can certainly partner to walk Caleb through that process. It's probably a good idea and great education for him to learn about permitting and what's involved with that, especially around tidelands. There have been a number of other sites suggested from the Parks and Recreation Commission as we've talked a little bit about this proposal. So we'll sit down and meet with Caleb and figure out what's going to be, I guess, fit within the project time frame that he's looking for. We do have a site plan from the phase 1 of Windjammer Park as far as locations, suggested locations for different amenities. You know, as we look at things like an inclusive playground, improvements to the lagoon, a possible amphitheater, different things like that, we want to just very carefully plan out where we're putting amenities and that they flow well with the intent and design of the park. Another thing that was also mentioned was that there is a established aesthetic for the park with facilities that we want to be able to match. So materials and color schemes and things like that will want to be in line there. So that'd be part of the planning process for anything to be put in there. My recommendation would be to have Caleb meet with our parks subcommittee to plan that out and talk about those locations and move forward if the commission wants to support and likes the concept of the project, but would love to hear your comments and any questions that you might have.
Yeah, first I want to say thanks, Caleb, for coming in and getting in front here and coming up with I think, a really good presentation. It's fun to see, folks that are going for Eagle Scout put together these projects for the community. I mean, there's been some really good ones and this looks like another one that we can add to that list. So thank you. Thanks for using your imagination, I think, to come up with a really good plan. I'm excited to see where it goes. I echo everything Brian said. We just got to figure out where would be the best place to put it. I think you put your mind to a place that makes a lot of logical sense, but there's some other things going on that we just have to square away with Windjammer. So I think you were on it with your instincts as far as a good place to target, and I commend you for that. And again, thank you for getting in front of everybody here and making a presentation. I look forward to seeing how this goes and figuring out how I can help donate to it as well.
For what it's worth, I'm not sure that your microphones are working. At least I'm having trouble hearing Brian, I'm having trouble hearing Miss Stuckey. And so I just want you to know that
Okay.
I have excellent hearing and more I'm old.
Okay. Can you hear?
Check.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I know this microphone, you have to be pretty close to it. I'll
Sure.
try to remember that.
I'll engage my dad voice.
No, you I can hear fine. Everybody else.
Robert, me the pleasure.
Stefania, Tom, were there any questions that you had for Caleb? I didn't hear anything from either one of you. Sorry.
It looked like Tom was getting ready to say something, so I didn't want to speak over him.
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay.
I have a question. So once the structure, if and when the structure is completed, what does the maintenance look like for that? Would that be the city's responsibility?
No, the maintenance will be very minimal, especially it being a concrete pad, and then the wood will be pressure treated. So the maintenance might be like restaining it, which I can do, and that'll probably be every like 5 or 10 years or so. It'll be very little maintenance.
Yeah, and I can speak to that as well. We have, actually, all of our pergolas have been built by volunteer groups. Rotary Club, there was one that was a scout project before as well in that park. And for all of them, we've usually had volunteer groups that have come and refurbished those as needed. I know in the one in the gazebo in Smith Park, last year we had volunteers come in and repaint that.
Thank you.
Do you have any other questions for Caleb? Do you need a motion or anything from us at this time?
Yeah, if you want to give a motion showing that the commission is in favor of the project, and you know, directing for the subcommittee to work with Caleb on that. And when we have that finalized, we can bring that back as an update for the commission of, hey, here's how we're going to go forward. And I guess I do have one last question for Caleb, though. Are you looking for any assistance from the city, financial or otherwise?
It would be very helpful, but it is not needed based on my fundraising plans.
So I'm a little trying to figure out how to word a motion, because I do want to make a motion to approve it, but we're not necessarily approving the project. We're approving to continue working on the project. Yeah, I guess I'll make a motion to move forward with strategizing and making a plan for implementing this project, and with discussion in the subcommittees.
Do we have
I second.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. That passes unanimously. We will see you again, Caleb. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Okay, so now we will move on to item B, which is Arbor Day.
So we have met with the school district with the urban forestry grant. We have funds to engage in a number of different activities to promote our urban forests, events like Arbor Day, educational outreach. And the plan was every year we have done an event with one of the local elementary schools in celebration of Arbor Day, usually around 400 students or so. And we do a welcome with city officials. We've had the Parks and Recreation Commission, Gary Oak Society, the Garden Club, a number of local agencies that have helped and volunteered with putting on that event. We have a welcome, a little information about the day's activities, and then the school divides out by grades and goes around to a number of stations. We do arborist demonstrations, read a book about the history of Arbor Day. The Garden Club has done a little potting activity for kids to bring little plants home. They've assisted with planting of trees, and then we'll do a number of field games. Gideon Kaufman has had archaeological demonstrations. So great, fun activity. We've had a lot of positive feedback from the schools that we participated with. And with this grant, we have the resources to expand that district-wide. So we met with the school district to talk about that. They've selected to have all 5 elementary schools participate this year. And so we are providing them with a event toolkit that provides all the supplies and materials to put on that event, as well as a template map and a itinerary run of show. Our invitation will be to City Council to have a representative from the city be to each one of those 5 events. The event will be the last Friday in April, which I believe is the 25th. Yes, April 25th. we will put it on the schools to help with getting those volunteers from parents probably mostly, but we'll also reach out to some of the local organizations and see if they have volunteers that would like to sign up, as well as internally in the city, city staff can volunteer their time for wellness hours to participate and help out the schools with staffing the activities. We usually leave it to the teachers and the school staff to manage what you would think is the chaos of having sections of classes go around, but they actually do an amazing job with the organization of it. Speaks very highly of our local teachers. So with the department providing all the supplies and materials and the outline for the event and assistance with volunteering for staffing the event, we anticipate that this is going to be a great activity district-wide. We do invite the Parks and Recreation Commission to be involved that day, so mark your calendars. We are going to be bringing a proclamation proclaiming April 25th as Arbor Day at the April 15th council meeting. Right. Yes, April 15th, council meeting, we'll do a Arbor Day proclamation and just give them an update on the plans for the event. So that'll be the week prior. So mostly just an update for you and an invitation for the commission, but do ask for a motion of approval or recommendation of adopting April 25th as Arbor Day, with a proclamation to go to council to designate it as such.
Thanks, Brian. Will there be like a volunteer email or something sent out ahead of time?
Yes, yeah, we'll have a sign-up sheet for that.
Perfect, okay.
That is being done individually through each school so that we can make sure we have volunteers stage at each one.
Okay, great.
I'll make a motion to, I guess, ask that the council proclaim the 25th as Arbor Day and do proceed with all the events as noted by the director.
I will second that motion.
Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, our next item is item C, inclusive playground design and request for proposal.
Oh, let me go back up here. Okay, so we a year ago actually brought this to you guys to start work on an inclusive regional playground to be located at Windjammer Park was what was determined through a number of different sites that we evaluated, and to start moving forward with fundraising for that. We applied for RCO grant with the Land Water Conservation Fund for $700,000 to be matched with Windjammer Park improvement funds that were already existing in the budget to do that. The playground aligns with the purpose of the Parks and Recreation Department. We through a survey and talking with some of the families in our community, which we host a exceptional family base, which means that we have a disproportionate amount of kids with disabilities in our community. And 9 out of 10 families felt that their child didn't have the same opportunities to play as other children do in the community. We really wanted to focus on not just meeting special needs of those families, but really providing areas that are inclusive of everyone, and that they are able to play where and how they choose. And so this is not just an effort to create a single space where kids or adults, parents and grandparents with a disability as well, can play together. But really start changing the culture and looking at all of our recreational amenities and spaces and how we can be as inclusive as possible. Not just if it's ADA compliant, which is really the bare minimum of access, but how do we invite all members of the community to participate, especially those whose voices are not heard. And we really are a community in need. We see a lot of families whose kids are on the outside looking in on our spaces. A lot of our playgrounds are extremely out of date. We have pea gravel in some of them. We have areas that don't really have pathways. And so we started looking at what does this vision look like? What is it that we would need for an inclusive area? One is that it would be fenced in. We do have families that have kids that are runners that have a condition that they might be susceptible to that. So we want to make sure that they're within a safe location. A lot of our playgrounds and parks are neighborhood style playgrounds that are very close to residential, but also close to cross streets, right next to right-of-ways. And so Windjammer Park was selected for a number of different reasons. We wanted a place that was a central location, had high utilization, an area that we could have good parking to designate as accessible parking, and where we could put a fenced-in type of a playground. This would be a pour-in-place surface with as much horizontal versus vertical building of the structures, which requires a larger footprint. So we are looking at about a 15,000 or so square foot facility. We did do a assessment of a couple different locations. Windjammer was selected as meeting all the check boxes of what we wanted to do, specifically the west side of Windjammer. We did an estimate of funding, about a $1 million project. We identified RCO funding for $700,000, as well as a program match out of city funds. And then we anticipated we could raise about $100,000 from community donations, which I think would be a very bare minimum. Projects like this are usually very heavily community supported, and it really is an easy pitch to the community, right? Especially one of like ours that has so many families that are in need of a facility like this. We did take this grant ask to RCO. We scored very high, but we're just past the cutoff for it. They felt that the project need, the concept, and the alignment with RCO priorities, all were what they were looking for and very high. They just wanted to see the project more shovel-ready, permitting in hand, designs ready. So in anticipation of going after the next round of funding, we wanted to move forward with a design RFP. The estimates that we got reaching out for this are about 20 to 50,000. We do see these kind of professional services come in higher than what we have gotten estimates for. So we're going to consider kind of the upper end of that, 50,000 for design as well as permitting and construction documents. Funding does exist within the Windjammer Park Improvement Funds, which have already been allocated for those purposes. So, we can't take those funds and use them for street improvements or other things. We are working on putting that RFP together, and we'll be presenting that to council next month at the workshop. And so I'd like to have at least one member of the commission there to help support that. We have our basic layout template and the scope that we're putting together for that with a presentation to council. And so if I can have specifically one person that would like to volunteer, I'll work with them on that scope and that presentation, and would like that to come from the commission primarily. Any questions?
I'm happy to attend the workshop. Do we have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. When we had funding there, I noticed one name that's absent that I think should be included, given that one of the reasons that we want to do this is the naval base's status. It wasn't mentioned, nor is it on there, of reaching out and trying to see if there's any partnership available in order to meet those needs. Has that been considered, or is that something that has not been received warmly?
Yeah, so I actually got to meet the captain at the new firehouse groundbreaking. And we talked about a number of topics, including the inclusive playground. And he definitely was interested in partnering with the city as much as they can on projects like this. So we'll have further discussions. He asked me to connect with Brian Tiehouse on it. So.
And there have been several businesses and individuals who have expressed interest in contributing to the project as well. Stefania, Tom, did you have any comments or questions?
No, I don't. There is a family service center on base, and they may be a good point of contact underneath the commanding officer that deals with those kind of programs.
I don't have any questions, but I would just like to state or say, whenever my coffee kicks in, I would like to say I am behind this project and I would like to advocate wherever I'm needed.
Thank you. Okay, I don't think we need a motion at this point, do we, Brian?
No, we'll like I said, we'll bring this to council and workshop. Well, yes. Why don't we go ahead and ask for a motion of approval to submit an RFP for the design. I will send a draft out to you guys for comments before we get to the workshop. But yeah, I would like to bring to council that the commission has made a motion to go ahead and submit an RFP for the design.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve submitting for an RFP.
A second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes unanimously. And Brian, you said that'll be at the next city council workshop?
It will be at It will be at the April 22nd workshop.
Okay. And I will be there. Can as many of us attend as we would like?
Yes, of
Okay.
course.
Okay. Our next item is city council workshop agenda. This is for a different workshop, correct?
Yeah, so this is your joint meeting with city council that we're scheduling.
Yes, so we will be scheduling a meeting for the commission to meet with city council at a workshop. The idea kind of just to touch base, make sure everyone has had a chance to meet, city council members have had a chance to meet the commissioners and vice versa. I think we would like to kind of come up with a list of what our priorities are as a commission and compare that with what city council's priorities are, just to make sure we're all on the same page. So with that, it would be great if we could kind of come up with a preliminary list of our priorities that we could bring to them for that workshop. If there's any ideas, now is the time.
I think we have several projects that are already sort of in one state or another of action. And it would be nice to have conversations regarding those. So I'm thinking Freedom Park, this inclusive playground, pickleball. I think also another item would be talking about Windjammer and how we want to, or how maybe council envisions that moving forward, or do they?
Yeah, with Windjammer, I would like to have a discussion about that, about what they would like to see, priorities in terms of projects that are kind of, have been discussed to be included in Windjammer, but nothing has really been set in stone. So I would kind of get like to get their feedback on that, so we know what we want to focus on.
Yeah. I think, again, a conversation about this upcoming RFP, which is agenda item E, and a future discussion about outdoor sports facilities as well, I think would be a helpful item as far as where council or different council members have a vision for that.
So this meeting will be for about 1 hour before the city council workshop. I think the intent is to make sure that the Parks and Recreation Commission is aligned with council priorities and to get any feedback from them on what they would like to see you working on. I would say we want to be very purposeful in our time frame with them on both the discussion points and what our asks are of them. So as we put these all together, all these things are great for getting feedback. Let's make sure that we direct the talking back and forth so we can cover everything that you want covered within that amount, and that you have clear direction on how to move forward from them by the end of it.
Can we send them ahead of time our list of priorities so they're prepared with any questions they might have? And
Yes, in fact, yeah. So Sabrina's asked that we provide an agenda of what we would like to cover with them. So everything, yeah, I would include all that in that document so they can have as much ahead of time to look at that, talking points, and let's work on maybe a staff report that we can get a little more detail into each of those talking points, and give them as much information as possible so they're ready with their questions and comments and feedback at the meeting.
And I think the reason that I kind of have a scattershot approach there is I'd like to see overall a shaping of some sort of global, or as close as we can get to that vision for what's going on, because we have a lot of things in being worked on. We don't necessarily have a master plan yet, but we're working towards that. And so trying to get some alignment in how all these projects tie together, I think, is the main thing, knowing that we have work in progress. We also have upcoming work that's going on. And if we can get even just some form of a cohesive vision from each member, and then maybe get a pulse on what that looks like as a council in general, it's going to help, because I feel like we're working a little bit dark.
Yeah, so the city council has priorities of 32 goals that they had put together several years ago. They did meet in a retreat last year to try and update those and narrow those down. They ended up going back to the original 32, but there are a lot of those items that I think need to be updated or revised or changed. You'll notice, and we'll send this over to you. Actually, I can share my screen right here. But I will also send this as well. And you can see quite a few of these items are Parks and Recreation Department specific. Windjammer Park, one of them, as you wanted to talk about, partnerships in Parks and Recreation. The accessible playground is in there as well. Enhancing programs, Freedom Park. Other city infrastructure like Fred Marsh. And then looking at like really just care fields and, and other amenities. They had put aquarium, but really we're talking about recreational facilities and indoor facilities. And the recreation center came out as, I think, one of the two top priorities that came out of that retreat they had last year. So probably definitely something that we'll want to touch base on with them on, especially as we're about to put out the RFQ for the feasibility study.
so should we come up with maybe like our top 3 and then?
I would limit it to no more than 3, if you want
Yeah.
to keep it within that 1 hour.
Yeah, and then we can, if we could do like a top 3 and then kind of make a list of other priorities that we can just give to them, so just for their reference, but since it'll
Yeah,
be
if
a
you want
limited
to,
time.
exactly. If you want to give them a list of, hey, here's what we're working on and our priorities as a commission. Do these align with your priorities of council? Is there anything not on this list that you'd like to see us working on? Is there anything that you feel like we're not aligned, that we should not be wasting our time going after because you're just going to vote it down.
Okay.
May I add to that list as well?
Yes.
I know it probably won't make the top 3, but I just want to keep the conversation going. I'd like to add volunteer park to that list. Just kind of the vision. I know we have to be time conscious, but what the vision is for that volunteer park, the ownership, the maintenance contracts, things like that. So I want to put it out there just so we can kind of keep the conversation going. We don't fall to the wayside, I guess.
I think if we're going to keep it to 3, we should target Windjammer as one that does include the inclusive playground. So that's nice. I know that park's going to have the most asks and demands from the community on it as far as what that's going to look like. So I think that's very important.
I would say, in my opinion, top 3 would include Windjammer Park, the Recreation Center,
Yep.
and possibly Freedom Park.
Yeah. I don't know about Freedom Park because we're kind of stuck in permitting land right now, and we kind of have a plan for it. I was thinking maybe the third thing could be like in my opinion, solving the other problem that Freedom Park didn't solve, which is outdoor recreation and sports facilities. And so we have 2 that are sort of more current and one that's a future, but it's a pressing need. I don't know if that sounds good to everybody else, but those 3, I think, give us some kind of now, a little later, and then a bit more late, further down the schedule than that.
That sounds reasonable to me. Tom or Stefania, did you have any feedback?
Yeah, I do. So in April, we'll know more about funding for the pickleball courts. If that doesn't come through, are we prepared to ask the city for funding for the entire project or partial funding for the project?
I think it is a good idea to have that discussion with City Council. We have a couple of scenarios we're looking at. It's less and less likely that the project would be fully funded from what we're hearing with, the state's budget. A partial funding, we'll have to look at whether we go with the revised footprint, which they've provided with 4 courts. We're getting cost estimates for that right now. Or the full project, but I think either way, there will be a need for additional funding from the city. The grant that we put in did not have a match. So if we do get funding, maybe it's just simply going back to City Council and asking for a match of that funding.
Do we have, I don't know if Don's really completed this 100%. As far as I know, we haven't received a quote from him on what the construction cost would be?
Yes, we do.
It would be good to have that in hand.
Yeah, we do have the construction costs for the full plan. We're getting construction costs for the revised plan right now.
Okay. Separately, does the new budget, I guess it's a 2-year budget, does that have approved projects, funded projects for Parks and Recreation?
Yes, we have our capital project plan that has quite a number of different Parks and Recreation projects in there, including the pickleball courts and the inclusive playground.
So there would be no need to address those then? They're already addressed in the budget?
They are addressed, but they're addressed with the funding that we were going after. So, like I said, if we don't get the full funding request for the pickleball courts, if we get a partial or are not funded at all, we'll have to revisit that with council on if we move forward, allocating funds for that.
Okay, in light of that, maybe it would benefit us to still have the Windjammer conversation, have the rec center conversation, and then have a conversation just, I think, tied to the specific work in progress in funding and budgeting. Because there's a couple of different things that are going to require funds. Pickleball is one, but there's other work in progress that are going to require funds. Is that manageable?
I think so.
Okay, so do we have a date of when this joint meeting will take place?
I do not have a date for it yet. It would be before one of the workshops. And since we have a number of items on the April workshop, including the department annual report, I think that's pretty ideal to shoot for that. But I'll need to confirm that with Sabrina and Julie.
Okay. So I will go ahead and put together this list with our top 3 and then just the remaining projects that we've been discussing so that City Council has an idea of what we're talking about and working on. And we'll go from there. Any other questions or comments on that? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to item E, Recreation Center Feasibility Study RFP.
Okay. This will be just a little bit of a review. You're all pretty familiar with this, but we've been waiting for the last 6 months for the agreement with the state to do this, and we were asked to put the RFQ is what this is request for qualifications out until we had that. So we just received that last week, and we're ready to move forward with the feasibility study. So this is just bringing this item back to you guys for review. We have a subcommittee for the Recreation Center that we will share the feasibility study RFQ with, just to get any last comments before we send it out. But this has already been presented to council and approved. So just sharing this with you last minute before we actually pull the trigger on it. So just for review again, we did have a legislative member request for $200,000. The estimate that we got was about $90,000. We wanted to give a little leeway to that because we were seeing planning RFPs come back at almost double what the cost estimates were. And Representative Clive Shavers put in the support. Representative Dave Paul was very instrumental in getting us the full $200,000. The Department of Commerce does take a portion of that for their administrative costs, so $194,000 is what we have to spend on the study. This really has been a community-driven project. We had a number of people from the community come and speak to this. The very first week I started, a little over 2 years ago, the very first handful of people I ever met in the community, that's what they wanted to come talk about was, hey, we need a recreation center in the community. Jake Marriott with Evergreen Coast Construction was the very first community member I sat down with, walked to my office and spoke very passionately about this. The North Whidbey Pool Parks and Recreation District have been thinking about this and started some preliminary planning around the replacement of the pool and what a recreation center that might join the pool with the center would look like. Last year we had Nolan Saltonstall, who was our student rep on the commission, prepare a presentation for council. As part of Whidbey Royalty, they came and presented on the need for a recreation center. The Boys and Girls Club received funding for sports courts and wanted to meet with us to see if there was alignment of those projects, and that's how Clive Shavers got involved with it. And his feedback from that discussion was, you know, what the community really needs is a larger indoor facility that can house a lot of the amenities that the community wants to see. Since then, we've seen that put on the city council's priorities, and Oak Harbor residents are really the ones that pushed this and submitted those letters of support that got us the $200,000 for doing the study. So the scope of work for the feasibility study will include a project review and updates, and I don't know if you'll be able to see my notes in there, so I'll just read through them. But those will identify the constraints and parameters, looking at the market, our mission and goals, site location. They'll meet with our project team. They'll do a market analysis, which will consider the demographics and community makeup profile, review the existing facilities that we have, programs and services, look at master plans, department policies, competitive market analysis, comparison with other regional demographics, and then look at user groups and impact of user groups' needs on facility components. We'll have a very involved citizen participation plan, review any existing research from previous PROS plans, which are Parks, Recreation, and Open Space plans. They'll do surveys, want to get at least 300 responses to that, which I think is very reasonable with the responses that we've seen from city surveys recently. They'll develop, beyond the survey, also some benchmarking with results, develop an online instrument for getting additional responses as well, and they'll present the results of that. We'll look at programming, different project components and recommendations for programming with the facility, as well as an operating structure. Site analysis will be a big part of that. We've had a discussion with the school district a few weeks ago. Sabrina and I met with the superintendent, and we had a discussion around a recreation center and different possible sites, partnering with the school district on land use or land swaps to be able to provide a footprint that would be appropriate for the size of the recreation center that we would need. If there's one lesson I've learned in having built recreation centers previously and in managing a different variety of sizes of recreation centers, is that you will never build it big enough to what you think you'll need, because the need fills what is offered. So we'll definitely want to have that in consideration as we do these surveys and what the community wants and the needs assessment, especially in a community that doesn't currently have a full recreation center. A lot of people it's getting the vision of who would use it. And a lot of times you don't know until you've built it, and then they all come and you realize, oh shoot, we're having a much higher participation rate than we were expecting. So site selection will be very important. They'll also provide conceptual layout and design. Depending on what we get for a cost of the feasibility study, it would be great to be able to roll that over and actually move forward with construction documents and permitting if a site is selected and we have a favorable response from the community in support of it. We have a clear financial plan on how to go forward with it and a pro forma from the study that we can just roll right into implementation and start working towards build out. We'll do an operational analysis of a fee structure, what we can expect in participation rates, and different revenue and expenditure comparisons to make sure that it'll be financially sustainable for the city within the general fund. We'll also look at economic impact for not just the city, but also the community in general. As a regional draw, what will this contribute back to the city's economy? We'll get specific capital cost estimates for not just the building of the facility, but equipment costs, personnel costs, different things like that. We'll also look very heavily at partnerships and identify partnerships. So in the void of having a Parks and Recreation department from the city previously, or having a full recreation center, we've had a lot of different agencies and organizations that have come up to fill that void. Big Brothers Big Sisters, Boys and Girls Club, a number of different special interest groups, the North Whidbey Pool Parks and Recreation District. The Navy provides their own facilities and recreation amenities as well, and all those are really important partners for us in putting this together, in understanding options and opportunities for programming within the facility, and how a facility might impact anyone else in the community. You know, gyms, yoga studios, basically anyone that might have, have some point of touch on this. We'll do project funding analysis, looking at all the different possible funding sources and scenarios. They'll provide a financial report and a pro forma and do a presentation both to the Parks and Recreation Commission and City Council. For the timeline of this, let me go to, I don't have it on here. I'll pull it up. And you may or may not be able to see this. I'll read through it as well. So this is what we had originally anticipated for project timeline. We weren't expecting the 6-month delay with getting the contract signed by the state, but this gives you an idea. So just shift this forward to June. Is probably what we can expect. If we're able to get the RFP submitted out end of next week, we give about a month, expect another couple of weeks for selection and negotiation, and then we'll bring that to council, I would hope, either at the last meeting in May or maybe the first meeting in June. So phase 1 would be the public input, program development, project schedule, budget considerations. They'd have a kickoff meeting with staff. We do a site visit workshop and then have our first public meeting and public survey. About 2 or 3 months later, we continue with the public input, do a program refinement and site analysis and selection, concept diagrams, and refine the budget. We'd have our public survey still going. Do a number of tours of recreation centers, which we started to do with the Parks and Recreation Commission last year. Have workshop 2 and do another public meeting. The following month, we would have draft program as well as a schedule, total project cost estimates, so we can start looking at funding options a little more closely. Do a third workshop, as well as a council update at that time, and then also a meeting with the commission and staff. Another month or so after that, we get into the last phase, gathering input from the commission and city council, specifically with all the results from the surveys and all the information that is being brought to you. We'll also have the completion of our business plan and pro forma and conceptual plans for final feedback and edits and tweaks. Those meetings will focus, then shift from the public back specifically to the city's Parks and Recreation Commission and City Council. And then based off of the feedback from those meetings, we'll have the final study delivered and then an implementation discussion with council at that point. And especially if we have some leftover funding to do construction documents and permitting, that's the time that we'll go ahead and do those contracts as well. So this is the RFP, and I'll send this out to you so you guys can take a look at it, give you about a week to look through it. And if you have any comments for the committee, give you some time to submit those, and we'll share those with the committee before we send this out, see if there's any last things we want to tweak with it. But it's our basic request for qualifications, and with the project scope like we were showing you here on the slides. Okay, so we do have a committee we put together made up of a couple of members of the Parks and Recreation Commission. We have 2 city councilor liaisons that are part of that as well, 3 residents in Oak Harbor, and then Parks and Recreation staff as needed with that. It's been a long time since we met because we've just been on hold, so we are going to reconvene. All I've been doing is giving them a monthly update of we're waiting. So we'll get back together just to go over and get any last feedback on the RFP, which we'll hope to finish those up in about the end of next week, end of March at the latest, to get that submitted out. So here's kind of a range of estimates for a high-end range of estimates for the feasibility study. Like I said, we gave the administration a cost estimate of about 30 to 80,000, which is what we were hearing back, depending on both the firm, their location, and how involved in the scope we want to be. So we do have quite a bit of a range. We're trying to make the scope as detailed as possible so we get as comparable as possible estimates. I'm going to guess it's going to come in around the $100,000 range. It might be as much as 134, depending. We will have some contingency buffer in there as well. So because Dave Paul really went to bat for us to get that $200,000, we'll be able to do a few more things with community involvement and engagement, which is where a lot of that cost ends up coming from. As you can see on here, that's the highest amount is citizen participation. All right, so basically the end point is we're ready to pull the trigger on this. We're just going to reconvene everyone just to get it fresh in their mind again, since it has been on hold for a while, and see if there's any last minute feedback on this before this is posted out. And then we anticipate we'll use that same committee for review of the proposals, and then we will engage in negotiations and then bring that back to council for contract and start on it within like the next month.
Great. Are there any questions, comments?
I think there's one question I have is a big part of pushing this initiative through was our former student rep, and I'm not sure if our current student rep would be interested or not, but I think it would be a benefit to having, Kaylee, if she's available, or to be on that board. And I don't know if that's something you're interested in or not, or if we're able to do that, but I think that might be of value to keep that continuity.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to have Callie on. Nolan was incredible. Not only did he come and present multiple times to council and applied and got onto the Parks and Recreation Commission to be intimately involved with this. He wrote letters of support. He even did a couple rounds of fundraising for donations and submitted that money to the city. I mean, he really went above and beyond. And I told him, even though you're moving on, we want to keep you involved with this, and I hope he's right there standing with us when we do a ribbon cutting here in the future. But yeah, I think it's a great idea. If you'd like to do that, Callie.
Yeah, I would love to work with you guys for it.
Tom and Stefania, did either of you have comments or questions?
I don't.
Okay. All right. There's no motion needed on this, correct?
No, you guys already did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because it's been so long. We're bringing
Yeah.
it back and letting you know. Okay, we're ready to finally put our RFQ out.
Okay. With that, then, we will move on to item F, subcommittee updates. Who would like to go first?
I can go ahead. So for facilities, we didn't have a meeting. So we've done a little work via email, and it's mostly been in regards to just shaping or getting more input on the pickleball courts. And so we recently received kind of a bird's eye view drawing of the 8 pickleball layout, and it looks pretty good. There's a few adjustments that need made in regards to fencing and fencing height, just in between courts. And that's where we're kind of at with that. We'll have another meeting here at the end of the month, and we'll have more work there. I'm not sure there's anything else to add, is there, Brandon or Brian?
know if Tom has anything on that. I know that Tom did bring up Rotary Park pickleball courts as a ask about that. So the city did initially create an MOU with the school district for refurbishment of those courts and had contributed $50,000 to do that. Because the actual cost estimates came in so much above that, about 3 times more, the city chose to go forward with designing and building courts on its own property rather than improve the school districts. However, I know that this is a community need. The city doesn't own the courts at Rotary Park or Rotary Park. We don't do any maintenance with it. The school district hasn't had any, does not have any interest really in putting any funding towards refurbishment of those. I think it is worth maybe a conversation. I'm sure the school district wouldn't mind the city kicking in funds to improve those for them. But I think it's worth some conversations with them to see, you know, this is used by the community. Is there anything we can do to partner with you? And maybe we can do a joint grant ask and get some funding for them to do that.
Yeah, my thought was just to show the pickleball community we haven't forgotten about them, and if there was something that we could do, it would be no cost or low cost. I don't think anything's going to make a great deal of difference in those courts, but I think the fact that, you know, we're trying to do something for them, since it looks like the new courts are far off.
I feel like this is going to get us back into the entanglement that we were trying to avoid, though, originally, by not being involved in putting funds towards stuff that wasn't owned by the city. I understand the need and desire to have some kind of improvement there, but it's not really our jurisdiction. I mean, just because people live in the city and play pickleball, they need to be doing it on a city facility, I think, in order for us to want to provide that funding. I would suggest that the club think about buying some temporary, you know, borders and boundaries for that. Or, you know, the club goes and asks North Woodby Pool Parks and Rec, who programs that area and has an agreement with the school district to do something like that. I'm not sure that this is a area where we want to spend our money when we have so many other needs. I mean, I get it that the pickleball community would love to have us, you know, say we haven't forgot about them. Well, we haven't forgot about them. We're looking at either 8 or 4 courts, and we're working on funding mechanisms. I get it that patience is difficult, but I would rather see that kind of thing come from a private donation, I mean, and including private citizens such as myself, rather than us get into another entanglement with the school district and even North Woodby Pool Parks and Rec, who program that park, trying to create a funding mechanism. I'm not sure there's a value there, unfortunately. But I'd like to help the pickleballers. I just don't want to help the pickleballers as the city there. I'm not sure that's in our best interest.
Yeah, I agree, Eric. I don't have any desire to bring it any further. I'll bring it up with the pickleball group and see if, you know, they want to pursue anything on their own, with approval if needed from the school district. But I just say let's drop it at this point.
And please don't hear me trying to be a wet blanket. I love pickleball. I love the pickleball community. I love what's going on there. We already agreed to try to avoid some of these unnecessary entanglements in regards to that property and that situation with that recreational activity, and I don't necessarily want to go back and do it again.
Yep, no problem. I understand.
Okay, for the Parks and Playgrounds Subcommittee, we discussed the inclusive playground RFP that we discussed here today already. We also started brainstorming a little bit on activation of Hal O'Malley Park, and also the possibility of a future community garden. We have meetings scheduled this week with stakeholders to discuss both of those items. And that's about it for that one. It was kind of a brainstorming subcommittee meeting. For programs and events, I'm sorry, was there any questions about that before I go to programs?
I'm a little curious about the conversation about Hal O'Malley Park. What were any thoughts come to it, or was it just more wanting to get it on the radar?
There was some ideas about food trucks and adding in some natural elements. I don't know if Brian wants to speak to that.
Yeah, so Ray contacted us and had an update to a conceptual design of renovations and improvements to the park related to a possible development there. The applicant has not submitted the application yet, from what I understand. So it's still a little up in the air of what that's going to end up looking like. If that footprint is completely within their property, there's no value in any kind of land swap, and so there's not going to be any requirement or obligation on their side to do any improvements at the park. So this is still, conceptual. But yeah, he did share those. We are going to try and meet with a couple of the user groups and organizations that help with maintaining that park. The Garden Club. We're also going to meet with the Gary Oak Society because the plan does have quite a number of Gary Oak trees on the site, so I want to talk with them a little bit about that. And yeah, and just we've been giving some feedback. They asked for some comments, so the committee gave their comments, and we'll get comments from these user groups, and then we'll wait and see. I think if there is an application submitted that is going to impact that park in any way, we'll bring it back immediately and have them come and present, and at that point get you guys pretty involved with it.
Tom and Stefania, did you have any questions about that? Okay. So our programs and events subcommittee, we talked about a bunch of things. We have, let's see, where do I want to start? We discussed scholarship programs, youth scholarship, recreation scholarship programs, and sponsorships. So Liz has made up some sponsorship packages that she is still in process with, but at least we have that process started. Craig gave us a list of all of the upcoming programs for the next activity guide, so we are reading through those just to make any last minute changes or edits that we need to make. We discussed the upcoming joint workshop, which we also discussed here today. And then the pirate ship, did we want to talk about that at all?
The Pirates have disbanded. They were originally the Yacht Club Buccaneers, broke off as a nonprofit separately around 2020. And the couple that has headed up that group is ready to retire and stop doing that. They are selling the pirate ship, and I know our recreation division has had an interest in perhaps purchasing that for special events and continuing some of the events that they did. I know that they are looking to take the proceeds from the sale of that ship to give to the VFW for continuing like the fishing derby that they have down the marina and a couple different things. So we're trying our best just to be good, community partners. They've partnered with us on a number of events and helped that transition, just to make sure the community doesn't lose out with that. But
Is there a price tag on that pirate ship?
yeah, $2,000
Is there any buried treasure to help fund the marina?
possibly.
Okay,
but-
excellent.
Yeah, and our subcommittee members, we were pretty enthusiastic about that for a lot of reasons, but specifically since our Mermaids and Pirates event is one of our main big events that we do, it would be nice to have that at our disposal for that event, so we were pretty excited about that. That's all I got, unless I'm forgetting anything, Brian or Brandon.
I think you covered it.
Okay, any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to Parks and Recreation Director updates.
All right, so first off was we do have a request from the administration to reduce the meeting hours to 1.5 hours, which actually we're kind of right on schedule for that, which is nice. Typically, we've scheduled this from 10 to 12, but just for costs with the recording and whatnot, they've asked if we can keep it to 1.5. So if there's no objection to that, that's how we will schedule the meetings for and try to make sure that we keep within that time frame and are able to end by 11:30.
How much cost savings is that?
I don't know. I can find out for you and give that to you.
I think that would be valuable for us to know how much it costs for us to meet.
I'm fine with the time change if everybody else is.
I'm not until I see the numbers. I don't want to be ornery, but I want to know where we're where we're pinching our pennies, or if they're not pennies, where we're pinching our thousands.
Save you about $1,500 a year, is what I'm being told.
Okay.
That's almost a pirate ship.
I mean, I'd rather buy the pirate ship. Well, I guess. Okay. We're all volunteering, and I'd like to think that we provide a valuable service to both the community and the city council. $1,500 over the course of a year to cut out a half an hour's work over 12 meetings when we only meet once a month and we have so many things on our plate seems pretty ridiculous to me. And that's a soft adjective in this case. Unless we're not viewed as valuable, then yeah, let's go down to an hour then. Let's save $3,000 and make sure we buy the pirate ship and have $1,000 to do something else for it. That seems, you're the park director, and so I'll take your lead here. If you think that's a good use of the money and our time, then by all means, I would like to think we're more valuable than that. If we're not, then I need to question my priorities as well, I think, for serving here. I find that frustrating, to say the least, and there's other words for it, and I'm not even talking four-letter words, I'm just talking other words that I don't want to say because I think they'll be misinterpreted, and I don't think that's a good message to the community when we're so anemic in our offerings for recreation and parks.
I would have to say that I see where you're coming from. Meeting just once a month, there's a lot to address, especially if we have public comments and they're coming out, and does that mean we're going to restrict their time as well to make sure we cover everything that we need to cover? I do see how it is our voluntary time, so we're volunteering. So some of us are done after an hour and a half. We're just ready to go home and we're tired. But the bigger picture is the city as a whole. So I feel you with that is, putting in our 2 hours is the least we can do to provide information to the city of what's happening next. So I don't have four-letter words, but I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, I mean, we often fill up 2 hours. We could squeeze it into an hour and a half if that's what is. I don't know if you're asking us or if you're just telling us that that's what's going to happen.
I'm currently asking for feedback on that, and I will take your comments and thoughts back to Sabrina to talk about. When the department was created and I first started, and you guys were the Parks Board, you're meeting for about an hour and a half, and immediately, with the implementation of the department, there was a lot I mean, we just started doing a lot of things. And an hour and a half very quickly grew to 2 hours to be able to kind of handle that. And we created subcommittees, just because once a month for a couple hours is not enough for all the different things we were doing, all the planning efforts. And so, you know, we kind of organically went there pretty quickly. Yeah, I'll take your comments back to city council and, or to the administration and keep you guys in the loop with where we go from there.
Are all of the commissions 2-hour meetings?
I don't know, Kim, can you help me on that?
I think they are currently 2 hours, but administration is trying to shorten the time period.
For all
Let's see, the
commissions?
Marina Advisory Commission is an hour and a half, but I know we've gone 2 hours with that. Arts Commission, hour and a half. Yeah. So I think they're trying to standardize it as an hour and a half across the board, but there's nothing in our code that dictates, you know, how long it needs to be. So like I said, I'll have those, I'll bring those comments back to Sabrina and we'll have a discussion on it. Anyone else have thoughts? I guess I want to get kind of a consensus on your feelings around it.
Honestly, I'm kind of on the fence about that. I totally get where you're coming from, Eric. And I agree, we often fill the 2 hours, and we've got lots that we're working on. But again, if it's just kind of more of a tell rather than an ask from us, then we can make it an hour and a half. But I think the 2 hours is useful for us most of the time, so I guess I can make it work either way, but I like the 2 hours.
I'm just saying, we should do whatever it takes. Because I learn a lot when I come. There's a lot of information that we're not going to get, of course, even in council. You know, we can try, like you said, but if it goes over, it goes over. It depends on what we're talking about. We have so many things. The agenda is large, and there's, you know, and you're only meeting once a month. You have other meetings, but not all of you are hearing that information. You're not all meeting together.
Hey, Barbara, can I just have you speak into the mic so our commissioners that are online can hear your comments?
Barbara Arms, City Council member. We have so much, we only meet once a month, and there's so much information. You all are meeting in subcommittees, but you're not all meeting together. So what you learn, you're having to pass on, then you're asking questions. I think we can try, but we really need all that input. I mean, that's how I feel. I learn a lot. There's things I didn't know, and just doing it council, it doesn't work that way. Because if I'm trying to learn about what you're doing at council for an hour, and everybody else, by the time we're at midnight. So I think it behooves us to try, but I think, I don't agree with it really, so I go with Eric. Thanks.
Thanks, Barbara. Tom, did you have any thoughts or comments? Tom, did you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of neutral on it. I think we could do a lot to manage our time to make it an hour and a half, but is there really a problem with exceeding that if we need to? I don't know, I guess, and I understand Eric's point too, as far as the value, you know, what we have to offer and what we need to listen to, so. Again, I don't see it as a money issue at all, so. If we can do things in an hour and a half, we ought to do that, but if we have to go over, then we go over, and I think Stefania made a good point. A lot of that's not controlled by us, it's public comments that may run long.
Kelly, do you have any thoughts? No, okay.
Well, Can I say one more thing on that? I think we have been strategizing and discussing ways in which to get more community involvement here in order to better provide information to council and the mayor. And we can't really be the funnel for that like we were talking about even as, I think it's 60 days ago, if we're going to continue to shrink. Now, I'm all for efficient meetings. I don't want to be in meetings longer than we have to, but I also don't want to shortchange work for $150 a month, whatever it, comes up. Yeah, $150 a month. I think, I bet we could raise $150 a month to have better communication around parks meetings and improvement of our parks and park facilities, if that's what it really takes to offset this. And I'm willing to bet we could save $1,500 in a much more, I bet there's a place to get $1,500 of waste that this isn't it.
Is the hour and a half a goal or a limit?
I think it's a goal. I don't know if it's required if we meet that timeframe, Summer City Council, where we would have to extend it. I mean, you always have an option to extend, but I don't know if that has to be like an official, motion to extend the meeting the way City Council does. I don't think so. I don't think it runs in the exact.
I don't think so, because there's nothing in the bylaws. Are we
So-
starting to sidetrack and go off the rails? Because I would like to know that if,
I think so. But I am in agreement. I think that, if we're here to gather more information and serve our community, to a deeper level and deeper degree, and then we want to close our doors early to save some money. It's interesting. But I'll do what I'm told to a degree.
Tim was saying that, the goal is to try and keep it an hour and a half, mostly, I guess, to keep the commissions on task. A lot of times we'll, in our natural discussions about things, get a little long-winded or go off track on tangents on other items or whatnot. But
I guess I'm asking, is that an issue with our commission typically? He's shaking his head no, so.
Okay, well, I will bring back for further discussion or if there is a direction there. Thanks for your comments on that. So, Craig Lamas-Cole, who's our recreation coordinator, just hit his 1-year anniversary mark. So this is this is significant, right? So I had asked City Council for 2 years of access to have recreation programming supported by reserves from the budget to get programming up and running over a 2-year period. So we're 1 year into that since we hired on Craig and really started jumping into recreation programs. And during that time, we have not had to dip into the reserves at all. We found, Liz has found budget efficiencies to cover some of those heavier upfront costs in her operating budget for setting up those programs and getting the equipment and supplies and whatnot. And they continue to do that without having to go into reserves. So I think that's a benchmark that's worth celebrating and noting, that the programs are self-sufficient and cover their direct costs, and Liz has been able to keep it contained within her budget without ever going to reserves. We will continue to grow programs. The next activity guide goes to the designer today. And in our monthly reports, we show an increase in participation and revenue levels month after month. So we're tracking very well on that. I guess the scale of it is maybe a little less than what we were projecting or hoping for, but the revenues and costs are still in line. So we're on a good path, and just want to give a shout out to Craig and Liz and all the work they're doing around that. We did have some vandalism at Coochie Park. One of the portlets were someone tried to light it on fire with the hand sanitizer. So we did end up locking up the portalet over the weekend. We have set a new policy of locating those portalets at each park that has a parking lot. We have a lot of community parks that are meant for people to walk, service the local neighborhood. They'll walk to the park back and forth, so most people, houses are not too far. But if there's a parking lot there, then I think we can reasonably assume that the intention is for people to commute and don't have readily available access to restroom facilities. So we will place portalets at any park that has a designated parking spot. We went over the negotiation proposal for the urban forestry master plan this morning. We have just a few little tweaks to send back to them to make, and then we're going to go ahead and put that contract agreement together. We'll make sure legal is good with that, and then that'll go to council for adoption. So if we can get it on one of the upcoming council meetings, probably the April 15th, perhaps the April 1st. I'll be out of town, so I don't know if I want to put that totally on Brandon, but in one of the April meetings, we will start work on that plan. So look forward to that, and you'll be heavily involved with the urban forestry master plan. There was a proposal by the Arts Commission to put an interpretive sign for the Angel of Creativity statue at Flintstone Park. The sign is 4 feet in height. We have a cost estimate for a cost proposal for $914 for that. Just wanted to maybe have a little discussion around that. We can get together with one of the subcommittees and the Art Commission subcommittees for public art to discuss the sign. 4-foot high sign is fairly significant, and so I just want to make sure it's done in a tasteful manner. I'm pretty adverse to sign pollution in the parks. It's very easy to want to put a sign for everything, talking about everything, rules and whatnot. So just looking at the design of the sign, the location of where it's put, is an appropriate size for the space and what we want to do with it. Just like to have a little oversight from the Parks and Recreation Commission as well as the Art Commission. So if that's appropriate, if you think for the Park and Playground Subcommittee maybe to work with them on that. But any thoughts or concerns?
Is there a proof, or has there been any design yet, or this is just a concept?
Okay, we haven't seen a proof of it yet, like what the materials or it looks like. I think mostly just what the information is going to go on it and the overall footprint of the sign to get a cost estimate.
Is there a reason why it's 4 feet tall? Is it like an art installation to explain an art installation? I'm not trying to be, I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, from my understanding, it's mostly to talk about the history and significance of the art piece. And the artist himself, so it's mostly informational.
Is that going to be better than a much smaller sign with a QR code?
Well, that's part of what we'd like to have a discussion around. Right?
Okay. I mean, I know that our commission typically is going to do stuff that looks very nice, but again, sign pollution and all those thoughts, and are people going to use it, and then what's the maintenance going to be on it, and are we just going to be cleaning it from Siegel? Where we can have a much smaller surface, and since everybody has a computer in their pocket, we can QR code it to get more information.
I would suggest that they pursue it through the subcommittee.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is that
I think that makes sense.
consensus on that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and then just notice of upcoming agenda items for the council. So March 18th, we'll bring back the Flintstone Park layout with 2 options for either removal of the full parkway or leaving the south parking lot and that access on the west side in place. March 25th workshop we'll have our department report with the city administrator report. We'll also be talking about some park facilities at Neal Park. We'll be bringing a proposal for additional funding for Chalk Fest, which is anticipated and we have funding for to put on in July. And then adoption of or presentation of the art plan, which will come back at the April 15th council meeting for adoption. Then on April 15th, we'll also do the Arbor Day proclamation, as you recommended to council, and like I said, Chalk Fest, as well as the adoption of the art plan. We'll probably also have the urban forestry master plan contract, if we can get that finished and ready to take to council in time. And then on the April 22nd workshop, we'll see if that will work for the Parks and Recreation Commission's joint workshop. Like I said, I still need to talk to Julie and Sabrina about a time frame. That's our ask, but that's tentative. I'll let you know as soon as we have a date for that. We'll also give the Parks and Recreation Department annual report at that workshop. And we will discuss the inclusive playground RFP if we're able to keep that in the same workshop. I know there's a lot of items, and I think that also got brought up to move. I think we moved it from the March workshop to the April workshop, though. Is that right, Carrie? Try
I
to remember.
think that's right.
Or if it was on the April workshop and they wanted us to move it back to the next workshop.
The first
but-
thing you said, I think is right.
Yeah. So, anyway, we'll be bringing the inclusive playground RFP to them at one of the upcoming workshops there. Brendan, you have anything?
No, Brian's covered most of it. We do currently have 2 seasonal park staff positions open and 1 arborist intern position open. No, the urban forestry was able to work with the engineering department, and we've got the chips on the south side of 7th installed, and we're working on installation of trees and bushes in the next coming weeks. So that should be exciting.
Okay, any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to item 6, member comments. Does anyone have any comments or any discussion items that they want to bring up?
This comment is, I guess it's a question for Brandon, that was brought to me by some community members about Fort Nugent Park. One, feedback saying people love the wood chips that are being put out there, how nice it looks, and then the other thing was, is there a scheduled plan for then taking the piles that are building up, of material for installing it? It was just a question that had been asked by both parents who enjoyed having their kids play on it, and then the normal group of dog walkers that I see out there all the time.
Yeah, that pile got a little bit bigger than I had liked to, so we're not taking any more chip pile, and we are working to distribute it. But that got a little bit bigger than anticipated.
I think really the question is people like it so much, seeing it out there on the paths and everywhere, and because this is the wet season for some of those lower spots on the trails, they're like excited to see it get put in. So it's like a complaint that actually, that they really just want it done because of how much it improves their quality of life out there for the regular park users. But thanks for doing that. Again,
No.
It looks fantastic.
Tom and Stefania, did you have any comments or questions?
Not at this time.
Yeah, just one last. We normally get the minutes like really late, like right before the next meeting. And I understand there's probably a giant workload there. But there are some things like Brian had just thrown out as far as I'm very interested in what's happening at upcoming workshops and committee meetings pertaining to Parks and Recreation. I'm taking notes as you're talking, but it would be helpful even if the minutes don't get out earlier. If maybe Brian, you could say, here's the upcoming agenda items pertaining to Parks and Recreation for this coming month or whatever. It would be helpful to me.
Tom, do you mean for like city council meetings or workshops? Or
Both.
Okay.
Both.
You can get those agendas on the city website ahead of time too. They're usually posted several days in advance. So I don't know if you want anything additional to that, but I don't know if you were aware that you can get
Yeah,
those.
you're right. I can do that. I just need to remind myself.
Okay.
I think I'll also add, we're trying to, I guess, get ahead of the meetings a little better and maybe have a little more of a robust packet, just so you guys are able to look at stuff a little further in advance, especially as we start jumping into several of these planning efforts all at one time. There'll be a lot to talk about and review. So I know like the Marine Advisory Commission does a packet very similar to what City Council does. I don't know if we'll go that far into detail, where I'm just repeating what I've already written down for you, but at least give you a little more of that stuff ahead of time to look at. And I can include upcoming agenda items as well.
Thank you.
I think it would be nice, though, to, see the PowerPoints that may be out there, so we have them, and we have a record so we can go back to them and revisit. You put together some really nice presentations. I think it would be helpful to have them, especially the ones with your notes, so we can just have our mind around what's going to be on, so we can be proactive rather than reactive. I think that would be helpful. I do think in the future going forward, though, Tom is hitting on something that would be nice, is if we can find ways to sort of tag and or link the meetings where we have different departments and commissions that are going to be, stuff in their purview is going to be highlighted in other areas. It would make it a lot easier for people to trace the thread. We have a lot of folks that are very passionate about like what we do in here in the community as well. This type of meeting might not work for them, but if they can see on our agenda, let's just say that we're tagged in a certain way, they can find the other places that do fit with their agenda where these things are going to be discussed that are open to the public. And then also for us, for the things that we need to show up to, being able to navigate that a little better than pulling up every meeting agenda and scanning them, that would be a great help. I mean, we're volunteers after all. I mean, maybe with that extra half an hour we get, we can do that, but in any case, I think that would be nice if we can have in mind to that kind of organization as we go forward and improve in those areas, which we are improving already, and I do appreciate the work that's been done to make all this stuff cleaner and easier for us. And so thank you for that to the staff.
I just wanted to give a shout out to the staff. There was someone in the community who asked me about a broken swing at Fireside Park last week. I gave them Brian's email, and they were on it within like 2 days. It was fixed, and that person is super thankful, so thank you for that. And then I just wanted to address the public comment about the dog park. I know in the past we've discussed dog park issues and things like that. We haven't talked about anything like that for quite some time. Is that something we want to talk about in a subcommittee to address any of those issues, or do we want to talk about it in a commission meeting? Or are we not talking about that right now?
Are you talking about the aggressive dogs?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
and just in general, we had discussed dog parks in the past,
Yeah,
improvements or,
we certainly can make that one of our subcommittee
Okay.
items to go over, yeah.
okay,
We do have rules for the dog park on there, and it speaks specifically to aggressive dogs in like point 2 and 3.
okay.
But I don't know. Dog parks have been a discussion point for years now. We really only have the one. The Pool Parks and Recreation District has one as well, also on the very north side of the city. And there's really nothing in the central core, especially around where there's higher density housing, where people don't have yards and really need a dog park. So definitely something we should consider.
Okay. Did anyone else have any comments? Callie, did you want to say anything? Okay. All right. Okay, seeing nothing. Determination of future agenda items. Did we have anything at this time?
Well, I think I'd like to revisit something that we just weren't able logistically to pull off before. I'd like to re-invite the mayor to one of these meetings. I think we had sort of discussed that, and then things had happened as they're wont to do, and I'd like to come back to that so we can just have, the mayor present the mayor's vision for things and hopefully have some kind of dialogue there around this commission.
Any other items at this time?
I think another item, maybe we can update next month about where we're at with permitting and some of the different things in regard to Freedom Park. I think, we're kind of that's kind of where we're at right now, but it would be nice to have a benefit, I think, or some kind of update, if there is any, for this committee, even if it's just the update is no update. It would be nice just to circle back to that since it's a work in progress as well.
Sounds good.
Okay, I think that's it then, unless anyone have anything else? Tom or Stefania?
Nope.
Okay, with that, we will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everybody.